Welcome to Wine Soundtrack Canada. Listen to the passion with which producers narrate their winery and their world. In 30 Answers, discover their stories, personalities, and passions.
Hello, friends and listeners of Wine Soundtrack Canada. This is Christine Campbell, and today I have the pleasure of sitting with Erik Fisher from Monte Creek Winery. Welcome, Erik. I'm looking forward to chatting with you today and introducing our Wine Soundtrack Canada listeners to you and Monte Creek Winery. Can you tell us a little bit about the winery, where you're located, and how many acres of land you have?
Hi, Christine. I'm looking forward to speaking with you today as well. We are located in the Thompson Valley in a quaint community named Monte Creek, just outside an up-and-coming city named Kamloops. And the winery itself is situated on 1,200 acres of land. I sometimes double take that statistic myself, but it is a large landmass.
I can't wait to visit. I have to be honest, haven't been there yet, but I know you'll greet me with open arms when I do show up. Sound good?
You're always welcome. Open door.
Thank you. One more question about the winery and the production. Wanting to know how many cases of wine you produce annually.
Yeah, right now, Christine, we do between 13,000 and 18,000 a year, just depending on the fluctuation in each vintage. We have, however, built a brand new gravity flow winery production facility that will enable us to do upwards of about 45,000 cases a year.
So is 45,000 cases, is that going to be your top number, you think? Is that what you're aiming for kind of future, or can you see maybe going beyond that?
Well, we certainly have some shoes to grow into right now, if you will, and I think if we can do 45,000 cases well, that'll put us in a good position. We've sort of planted acreage to support that growth, and I suppose I'll never say never, but being as though we're just moving into that new building, it feels like a stretch goal for now.
I like that stretch goal. I think I'm going to use that. What type of wines is Monte Creek known for, or what type of wines do you want to be known for, either varietal or style?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Thank you. I think given our position geographically and what we've known to do well so far in the Thompson Valley, Riesling, Chardonnay, and Pinot Noir would be our signature grapes, if you will.
3 of my favorites right there. I knew I liked it. I knew I liked you guys. Okay, this is more of a trip down your own memory lane. What is your first memory that you recall relevant to wine in your life?
First memory for me would most certainly be family dinners, just trying to understand how wine and food work together, and if everything aligns properly, both are better for it.
Fantastic answer. Did you ever have a wine in your past that was just so memorable that you remember the occasion and you remember the wine almost to a T? Question mark?
It's difficult to pinpoint for sure. Without having traveled a lot of the globe, most of my experience have been drinking wine here from both locally and from elsewhere in the world. Certainly when I do get out and about and experience different wine countries, whether it's in Oregon or in Washington, those have definitely been some of my more memorable experiences. Talking to the proprietor or experiencing their craft on site where it was actually produced is always awe-inspiring for me.
It really is kind of putting the face to the name with wine and production, and knowing that these people that are wine growers, grape growers, just really, really love the earth. And I think that Monte Creek is a, fantastic, champion of sustainability. Are you not?
Well, we're certainly passionate about it, and we're definitely feel as though we're doing everything in our control to not only maintain the 1,200 acres of land that we occupy, but enhance it if we can. Certainly, sustainability is one of our 3 core tenets that really unite the staff, and you can see the fire in everyone's belly when you walk around the winery and talk sustainability.
I applaud you for that. I think everyone should be doing more, so well done. Okay, here's a fun question. Amongst all the world population, all the countries in the world, do you have a fun guess or an idea or just an impression of what country drinks the best in relation to quality in the world?
Wow, that's a big question to unpack. Without a lot of worldly experience, I mean, I know we definitely do well in our household, but, you know, I would have to think probably tough. Italy, if I had to guess.
I think that's probably one of the top 3 responses to that question. Italians seem to know how to do it well, don't they? Do you have a current wine right now in your cellar that is giving you a lot of satisfaction? Either a Monte Creek wine or another wine that you're kind of going back to over and over again?
Well, one of my newest favorite wines is actually our new 2020 Living Land Cabernet Franc. It's the first time at Monte Creek that we produced a Cabernet Franc, and I'm just blown away at how balanced and how fortuitous that we have been to create a wine like that. It's just unbelievably concentrated with fruit and lots of secondary characters. And it's a wine that, you know, we've just bottled, and I think the future is really bright for it, and I can't wait to start showing it to people.
I'm assuming the flavor profile might be quite bright as well? Yeah. Yay! I'll put on my sunglasses when I try my first sip. Here's a fun one too. Do you believe personally in a perfect grape variety? Is there a grape variety out there that you think is perfection?
Well, I think it's an interesting question as well to unpack. I think there's certainly grape varieties that you know, you might say are done varietally correct. You know, Riesling can vary in styles. I think Sauvignon Blanc would be one that people would unite in saying that, you know, there's not many worldly styles for Sauvignon Blanc. The grape that I sort of crush on the most is Pinot Noir. I mean, I prefer a more elegant style Pinot Noir, but there's lots of producers and certainly lots of countries that traditionally do that style. And I would say that Monte Creek as well has a more refined and a more elegant style Pinot Noir.
I've tried your Pinot Noir, and I'm a huge fan. I'll just say everything you said about Pinot Noir, you're doing it brilliantly. So thank you. Keep it up. Okay. Pretend that I am not this person. What is your opinion of wine critics and wine scores?
Well, we tend to live and die a little bit by wine scores in this wine industry. I can't think of too many other fields where you can consistently get a report card. Whether or not you agree with it, I suppose, is up to us to process. But you know, we are sort of constantly on that quest to the perfect score, if you will. And I mentioned sustainability being one of our core tenets earlier. Quality and innovation are also. And, you know, we are constantly doing whatever we can to sort of push that envelope in a quest to earn the perfect score, if you will. And it may be a lifelong battle, but it's one that we're up for the challenge for.
What a fantastic answer. I like it. You didn't offend me at all, I promise. Getting down to wine, as a consumer yourself, do you tend to prefer white, red, or rosé? Or do I know that the answer is red because it's Pinot Noir and you just kind of sent it a love letter?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm showing my age or not, but you know, I've noticeably been reaching for more whites and certainly more elegant, you know, lower alcohol reds at this stage. It's not to say that I don't enjoy a nice big robust red with a grilled steak or what have you, but been enjoying a lot more whites and rosés, and certainly some of the lighter-bodied reds.
So you drink around the block. Me too. I knew we were going to be friends. So do you tend to reach for a still table wine, or do you also enjoy sparkling?
Yeah, I mean, sparkling as a category seems to be just continuing to blow up, which is really exciting. And I mean, when I think of sparkling, I instantly associate it with, not just celebratory occasions, but typically occasions with friends. And, I love a glass of sparkling, don't get me wrong, but typically more of a still wine drinker myself.
Nothing wrong with that answer. But if you were going to reach for a glass of sparkling, would it be champagne? Would it be Prosecco? Would it be BC non-vintage Brut? What would you reach for?
Yeah, well, with price not being an object, I certainly love to play in champagne, of course. But I don't discriminate. I think bubbles are made in all kinds of different styles with all kinds of different grape varieties, and if it's crisp and refreshing and flavorful, then why not?
Yay! I like your answer so much. This is fantastic. So now I'm incredibly intrigued by the next question I have for you. On that once in a while chance that you might have had an extra glass or two of wine during the evening, do you have a cure? Do you have your own cure for a hangover?
My own cure? I wish I did, because if I did, I would be doing anything I could to patent it. Still just straight up water and typically a 400cc Advil before I go to bed. A little preemptive strike.
I think we come from the same line of water and Tylenol or Advil before bed. Absolutely. What does a non-wine drinker lose out by not tasting your wines from Monte Creek specifically?
Yeah, I think, in the general sense, I think that people who not necessarily need to consume, but taste wine are really missing out on provoking their senses the way that wine can do. I think that the food and wine experience can be elevated as well with the right pairings, and I think that people should consider tasting and of course spitting if need be. And then I think for a more sophisticated wine drinker, I think the Thompson Valley wines are real unique, and that there is a true sense of place when consuming our wines. I mean, we try and do things as sort of varietally and stylistically as we see fit, but we also very much honor each individual vintage and try and showcase each wine for the exceptional place it comes from. In fact, we ferment everything separately so that we can really pick and choose what to showcase.
I love all of that. So you were just talking about vintage. Do you think each vintage tells a different story or not? Drilling down, what I'm trying to say is, do you think there are more things that repeat themselves year after year, or is that the opposite?
Well, it's a good question. I sure hope that 3 of the last 4 summers don't repeat themselves with all the wildfire activity that we'd have. But I do think that vintages are more unique than the average person might suspect. We get a lot of times it'll be, get off to a racing start where, sap starts flowing and bud break is really early, and then we could have a prolonged, wet, cool period. It's not very often, that we have just a very consistent flow throughout the summer. There's usually peaks and valleys to precipitation and to heat units. Sometimes we get a nice prolonged warm spell into the fall, and other times the vines have lost their leaves by Thanksgiving, if not sooner. So there's a lot of factors climatically that we work with in here, and it impacts things like phenolic ripeness and bricks and things that winemakers are certainly keeping a close eye on. I know our winemaker, Galen Barnhart, he will predominantly pick for flavor as opposed to trying to formulate any sort of desired statistic, and is not afraid to pick at lower bricks at all.
Do you personally have any good luck rituals before harvest starts? I've heard some very interesting stories, and I've heard absolutely not as the answer. So I'm intrigued what your answer is going to be just before harvest is going to start. Anything that you do to kind of send a, Hail Mary out to the gods? I don't know.
Well, that's it's definitely making me think that I probably should have more. We haven't gotten into burying any goat horns or anything like that just yet, but that's an excellent question. Currently, I'm not aware of any real traditions. We'd like to typically give our winemaking crew, although they don't always accept, a little bit of a break before harvest just to recharge and regenerate. But at that point, they're extremely diligent about sampling on a very consistent basis and want to stay as close to the situation as possible.
So a bit out of left field, so maybe no rituals, but what if a space alien landed in your vineyard and walked up to you and said, Erik, I need a glass of wine. What wine from your cellar or Monte Creek Winery's lineup, what would you offer them to drink as a great expression of what you do?
Yeah, well, Christina, I've never been asked that question before, but I feel like I have a suitable answer. So the first thing that popped into my head was definitely a Riesling. We have quite a significant what we call a diurnal temperature change, where the daytime high is quite high and the nighttime low is quite low, so we get these significant shifts, and it enables us to preserve a lot of real fresh, crisp acidity in our wines. And they're quite expressive, quite racy, quite interesting, invigorating, you might say. So I would see how far I can get that alien back off the ground after they sipped a glass of our 2021 Riesling.
Now that's something I gotta see. I'm calling all aliens to come and land on the vineyards there so I can watch that. That's fantastic. Something about you. When you were a little kid, what did you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah, it's a interesting question. I think certainly first love would have been a professional athlete, and that quickly went from an athlete to an agent to maybe a coach to probably nothing in sports at all. I'm really happy with my path, though. I think what we're doing right now at Monte Creek is really special, and I'm just happy to be a part of it.
Well, I'm happy you're a part of it too. We get to sit here and chat. You just brought up sports. Do you do any sports in particular, or are you a supporter of any sports teams, or is there a specific sport that kind of gets your juices flowing more than anything else?
Yeah, absolutely. Right now, I'd like to say that I fit a little bit more in than I do. Tennis is the one thing that I keep going here consistently, and I've been doing some mountain biking in the summer and skiing in the winter, and just trying to hold on to still being able to outpace the kids, soon to be 14 and soon to be 12. We're getting close. We're getting close to handing over the reins.
You might have just answered the next question I have for you, and that is, when you're not working, how do you spend your free time? It sounds like you've got a beautiful family. Love to hear about that. And what do you do as a family together?
Yeah, so those bragging rights are about to be handed over to the kids. You're right. We enjoy spending time together as a family. We challenge each other in really healthy ways, and when we're not working, we like to enjoy the BC outdoors as much as possible.
Erik, if your favorite tennis player won the match of all matches at Wimbledon, what bottle of wine would you give them from Monte Creek?
Well, definitely our sparkling wine. I think that accomplishment is worthy of a bottle of sparkling all day.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the sparkling? What are the varietals in there? And I'm assuming it's a dry. Is it traditional method or is it Charmat?
Yeah, the sparkling I was referring to is Charmat. We have a lot of unique white varieties that are extremely expressive. Lots of tropical and stone fruits. And our sparkling is dry and crisp and intense and enjoyable, all in one cup.
Which leads very nicely into my next question, and that is, for a really romantic evening, what wine would you order at a restaurant? Not specifically Monte Creek Winery wines, but what wine would be your go-to bottle for a lovely evening with your beloved?
Well, when you say romantic, I instantly go to gin. But if we're going to stay in the wine category, I would probably start with a nice glass of rosé. To be honest with you.
Nice choice. I like that. Do you have a favorite film dedicated to wine, or have you watched any films recently that are wine focused?
You know, I've been meaning to watch that sommelier series on Netflix. I think that's one that I've definitely got earmarked for an upcoming view. I wish I had some new nuggets of something that perhaps the listeners hadn't seen before. But I mean, the one that jumps out to me is Bottle Shock as being, you know, the most. It's what I recall as being the most impactful wine movie that I've seen.
You're not alone. A lot of people have that same answer, so there's no wrong answers. That's the best part of these questions. You can't go wrong. You can't deviate too far off because it's all your experience and everything that you think is fantastic or not. Now we are Wine Soundtrack Canada, so who is your favorite singer, or do you have a favorite musical group?
Well, that's an excellent question. I definitely dabble in lots of genres, but I must tell you that the Super Bowl halftime show certainly got me out of my chair.
Okay, so hip-hop. Old school hip-hop. This is a fun left turn.
Well, nothing I listen to every day, but if I could frame the expressions on my kid's face when my wife and I got out of our chairs at halftime at Super Bowl show, they saw a different side of us that they didn't know existed, and it was priceless.
Well, that is a fantastic memory, and that's what music's for, right? And it brings us back to that time and place that we got to hear all of that amazing music. And I was right there with you, jumping around, and my 11-year-old was like, what the heck is happening right now? Okay, here's a fun one that I like. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Best piece of advice I've ever received was probably that to be a little bit more patient and to focus on that life's not a sprint. It's more of a marathon. So to be a little bit more calculated and just how important consistency is. It's one thing to do something well for a short period of time, but it's an entirely different thing to be able to do something consistently at a high level.
I think that's great advice to give the listeners as well. What your advice was that was given to you clearly is fantastic and can be passed on to everyone. I think we could all take a deep breath, and live in the present moment a little bit more. What is your proudest achievement in your work life thus far?
Well, there's been a lot of special moments for sure. Instantly, what jumps into my head would be, although I wasn't part of crafting the wines per se, but was winning Winery of the Year at the All-Canadian Wine Championships recently. I think just in this past year alone, though, we've reached a lot of really cool heights. We've won some innovation awards. We've won some sustainability awards. And I think, once we we took a deep look in the mirror and really evaluated ourselves, and the fact that sustainability, innovation, and quality were paramount in not just our organization but in our own lives as a group at the winery. To see us excel in each of those three pillars has been really rewarding.
I'm going to ask you to complete the following sentence. A table with wine is like ...
A table with wine is like an invitation for friends and family to gather and have good times.
Mr. Poet, I love it. I love it. Do you think we're going to still be drinking wine in 2,000 years' time from now? What do you think?
Well, I know I won't be drinking wine in 2,000 years, or maybe I will. I haven't thought too much through that part, but yes, absolutely. I think if we can get on the right side of climate change and keep this globe spinning, I think that we'll still be drinking wine in 2,000 years. Absolutely.
I tend to agree with you. It is really all about this planet Earth, right? And we need to do better by her. And speaking of interesting things and places, namely this Earth, do you have 3 wines that you would absolutely take to either a deserted island or out into outer space? Whatever your fancy, a beach or outer space, but 3 wines from the world over that you've tried or not tried or have always wanted to try that would be your 3 go-tos to take with you.
Well, do I have a Coravin? I think well, unequivocally, one of them would definitely be a Pinot Noir. One would certainly be a Chardonnay. And, well, if I was down to just 3, I would probably also pick a Bordeaux-style blend. And those would be them. And hopefully they'd serve me well.
And yes, I think you can have a Coravin on a deserted island or in outer space. Why not? Just pack it in your suit. What is one winemaking area in the world that you would really like to explore that you haven't yet?
Yeah, I mean, Italy would probably be that. Just given, the breadth of grape varieties, the breadth of different processes in winemaking, depending on where you're at in the country and the style of wine that they're trying to achieve. I've always been fascinated by not only the wine but the culture in Italy, and it's high on the bucket list.
Amazing. We're not finished yet. I know you're smiling at me and you've been such a great guest, but it's time now to play a little game. I'm going to pick a couple of different wine varieties, and I'd like you to tell me what song or genre that you would pair with the wine. This is Wine Soundtrack Canada, so we need to have some music references in here. So you've looped back a few times to your, I'm going to say your favorite variety, Pinot Noir. What song or genre of music can you see pairing with that?
I'd go Frank Sinatra.
Well, you didn't even have to think. That was like, boom. Okay, Chardonnay.
Well, Chardonnay can be quite sophisticated as well. Chardonnay. That's an excellent question. I haven't been down this road before. Well, we're in Vancouver, BC right now, and I'm trying to think back to the last concert I saw here, and that was Coldplay.
Hey, that's fun. Chardonnay tends to go with pop music in a huge way. Kudos to that one. Okay, one more. What am I going to think of for you? I'm going to say Cabernet Sauvignon.
Yes, Cabernet Sauvignon. Well, as you know, wine is very much about experience. And when I think back to when I first discovered Cabernet Sauvignon, it was when I was living in southwestern Ontario and drinking a lot of Cab Sauv, experimenting with a lot of hard cheeses, and certainly listening to a lot of Tragically Hip, both live and at home, generally on full blast. Full body music for a full body wine.
Well, you just kind of went right to the heart, because that is my favorite band on the planet, and well done. Fantastic pairing. I couldn't agree more. Oh, thank you so much, Erik. Thank you for joining us today. Would you please remind people where we can find your wines? If we are looking for Monte Creek Winery wines, where can we get them? Also, when is your tasting room open, if it's not already? And then would love to hear your website address and any social media handles you would like to share with our listeners.
Yeah, absolutely, Christine. Yeah, so our tasting room is open year-round. We're open right now 11 to 5 and 11 to 6 in the summer. Our terrace restaurant opens in May. It's a seasonal restaurant that is definitely a must-see and experience attraction. Our website is montecreekwinery.com. We do ship wines direct all over the place, and we're doing our best to have our wine shown in as many restaurants and liquor stores as we can across BC and abroad.
Outstanding. Well, I can't wait to visit. Stay tuned. I'm going to try and get up there this summer. And thank you very much once again, Erik Fisher from Monte Creek Winery. This is Christine Campbell from Wine Soundtrack Canada. Have a wonderful day. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to a new episode of Wine Soundtrack Canada. For details and updates, visit our website, winesoundtrack.com.